We've got another VCR here. This one's a Panasonic NV-G30. I don't have a service manual, couldn't find one online either, so we're just going to fly blind with this one. Let's take a look at the front of it. It's quite weird. So, over this side, where we'd normally find the power eject buttons, or standby and eject buttons, there isn't one. Panasonic, that looks like a flap that can open up, doesn't. There are the transport controls here in the center, TV tuner and recording, timer recording buttons. And then over this side, there's where the power standby button is. And counter controls. NV-G30, a little flap. The record button there is hidden by the flap. Doesn't seem to have any slow motion or other things accessible on here. It's got tuner controls, record buttons there, clocks and programming settings, TV, VTR, selection button, which turns the RF modulator on and off, and picture sharpness knob. And that's it on the front. It's pretty basic. What's quite strange about this one is we just looked at the G20, 21, 25, which are nice modern slim things with switch mode power supplies. And now here we are with the G30, and we've gone back to transformer based power supplies. This looks like it's pretty much a G12 or G16 all over again, but with a weirder control panel. Look at that, there's something a bit messed up with the RCA plugs on the video and audio in and out. They seem like the center part is pushed in. Strange. Or the sleeves pulled off. Don't know, not seen that before. Anyway, it's the standard stuff that we've seen before. Audio, video in and out, the RF in and out, a fixed power cord. Not much more to say. Let's look inside it, and then we'll try powering it up, see if it works. And we'll take it apart and explore the insides and see what we find. Haven't really had much to do with G30s or anything beyond what we've already looked at. There's a couple more in the G series that I have here to look at. Yes, pretty good. Ooh. Oh dear. So back to ball bearing style heads. It's a three head according to that there, super three head. So it's got three super heads on it, and yeah, that is true because that position there doesn't seem to have any wires soldered onto it. So three heads, and maybe the bearings have gone bad, ball bearings, or the RF transformer's gone bad because it's making a bit of a rubbing noise when I spin it. Also a little bit crusty there, power regulator things. Anyway, let's turn this on and see what it does. Got a nice beep. Put the tape husk in it and see what that does. Fast forward. Not too bad. Rewind. Also not too bad. Play. Not the worst for take up. Back tension is still okay. Head spinning, I can hear that little squeaking a bit. Perhaps we should get a reel tape in there and see what it's like. Ah, the eject button is there. Interesting. Not up by the power switch like usual. Pretty strange. Get a video output cable connected up. Nice that they write on there on the board where to connect it. Hopefully that plug's not ruined. Let's see what happens. Put a reel tape in. Oh, did we need to fast forward this because it was all chewed up from last time? It seems to work. That's nice. Pretty good pause. I was wondering that squeaking noise it's making. Is that getting worse? I'll stop doing it now. Okay. Yeah. Some noise appearing. Maybe there's probably dodgy bits on the tape because of what we were doing to it last time with those G25s. And I don't know if we fast forwarded through that or not. Nearly time to get a new tape out. Have to remember not to play the tape too much, otherwise YouTube will get angry again. Yeah, so it just works. Well, that's good. Let's take it apart so we can have a look, explore the boards, see, is there anything different about this to a G12 or G16 or G10? Seems like a fairly similar design. We'll undo the red screws. Interested to know whether that head gets progressively worse as we try using it. Did get a new number 2 JIS screwdriver, but it's not really as good as the old one. This one is a smaller size. It's still a 2, but it doesn't have the point on it, and the handle's not as grippy. But anyway, I need to find the other one, another one of the other one with the bigger handle. Still does a good job, but it just won't do those really tight screws because you can't get the right grip on the handle, or enough grip. You try them. Yeah. This one. I don't know, maybe it's fine. Or this one, I reckon it's fusion welding. That's why we have so much trouble getting these particular screws on and off. Maybe it's the combination of being against this tin plated steel. That's probably what it is. Something plated against this galvanized steel. Is that galvanized? Yeah, it's got something on it, some corrosion inhibitor on there. I can't remember what the name of that stuff is. Like no spangle matte finish. Or the screw welds itself into the thread, and that's why we get that massive crack noise when we go to take it off. And why you need to have a screwdriver that fits exactly perfectly, otherwise you just strip the thread out, strip the head out. What I forgot to do was check what type of back tension band is in this machine. Does it have one that's been replaced, or is it using the newer ones that don't have the problem with the felt part like peeling itself off after a while? Yeah, so what we can see in the bottom. Oh, did I accidentally click the little monitor thing off? Must have. Strange. Weird. I don't know why. Anyway, the mechanics in the bottom there looks pretty much identical to what we saw in the G10, 12, 16, 7 with the open frame motor, capstan motor, driving that for the take-up, head with the motor on the bottom there, loading motor, belts are a little bit slippy, mode switch, interesting flex ribbon cable there, and various gears for arranging the gearing of the take-up and supply reels, controlling the brakes, and the threading action, and the pinch roller. That's good. Let's take the front off. Oh, maybe that was a plan by them. You see, there's no buttons over here. Like we saw on those other machines, they had 2 boards on the front to handle having buttons across the whole front. Whereas this one, they didn't have to do that. You just end there. Though it does look like there's another version that has a longer panel and some extra stuff there. Maybe there's a hi-fi version or some other version. It has a different front panel board, VFD, remote control receiver. Still haven't found my box of remotes. I was looking for that again today, and nope, still don't know where that is or where it went. Unfortunate, because we could have tried more of the modes on these machines. They won't be being revisited, unfortunately. Maybe I should have a good look and see if I can get the remotes out for the next machine or the one after that. I don't know, I'm probably going to have to pull a lot of stuff off shelves to get access to deeper parts of the collection. The room is too full. Okay, we'll probably have to turn it off now because otherwise we're going to make a mess of something. Okay, Okay, so the back tension band in there, it is one of the slightly newer ones where it's a plastic band, but still the felt isn't crimped at the ends. So it could still fall off, but I think it's less likely with that newer version. Okay, now we've got everything unscrewed. This should come off. Undo some clips to release some cables. Undo a cable tie thingy. There we go, that clips up nicely. Yeah, that stuff gets pretty hot, those heat sinks. Especially that. Wow. It's at the point that you cannot rest your finger on it easily. It's pretty warm. So it is more or less what we saw in those other machines, as I keep saying. Take out the cassette loading mechanism, 2 screws there, and then this should just pull back or forward a bit. And then that dodgy cable that the stiffener tab is going to peel off of. Maybe not so eagerly on this one since it's not as old. Well, it says there 8908. I don't know if that's a date. Could be. Thought they would be using Japanese dates. That is an improvement though, isn't it? Because the other ones had a belt there. Belt driven motor is now direct driven with a little, I think that's a little sleeve thing, so there can be a slight misalignment between the motor and that shaft without causing a problem. Yeah, there you go. Pinch roller activated by a metal bracket there which slides along from that cam gear. Pinch roller, capstan, that thing that moves the tape over a little bit so that the pinch roller can come in there. The idler tire on that is pretty ruined, you can see cracks in it, but it seems still pretty grippy, so that's nice. Back tension band, newer style with the plastic backing instead of that metal strip. Record prevention switch there. Head. And we'll have a look at the electronics, which is also very similar to what we've seen in other machines. Flex ribbon cable thing coming up from the mechanism. Audio control head on that shielded cable going over to there. The signal from the video head, interesting, it's just like non-shielded wires. Yes, because the RF amp is in there, so it's at a reasonably high level by the time it goes down onto this board. The video processing luminance, chrominance stuff on this board here. TV tuner, RF modulators here in shielded enclosures. Then you've got servo stuff here, and up on this subboard there's another, looks like motor driver there. Little heatsink thing on it. System control down here with a fairly large microcontroller, and then power supply here with heatsink, and yeah, that's a motor driver. The motor driver there for the loading motor and front loading motor. A little bit simplified connection to the front board. It's only got one of those ribbon cables and then this other white one. Pretty sure the other models had 2 of these black ones going to the top of the board. You can see there's another pretty big microcontroller there which is under the VFD. It'll have the VFD driver in it. A lot of that stuff, it seems very hand soldered. There's flux residue all over it. And power supply over here. A bit nicer cable routing than some of the other machines. Power supply cables and things go down here. Is it? Yeah, it's power supply and I think the capstan motor cable, yeah, down here through a clip, another clip here in the chassis up onto the boards. It's just the head one that's up here. Although if that cable tie wasn't done there, then that could route down as well, but maybe they're keeping that up out of the way because these would be noisy signals because it's a motor drive and the power supply stuff. It's probably what their intention is there, keep the sensitive signals like the audio and video up out of the way. Makes sense? Is that us done? This machine, maybe. It's quick and easy today. Put it back together and we'll see if it still works. Should do because we haven't ruined it that much. hang on, before we do that, got to put this loading mechanism back in. Yeah, the screws there are captive because the plastic is slightly pressing on them, and then there's little metal hooks there, plastic hooks here and here. So you put it in, pull it back, and then it will lock it in place, and then do up the screws at the back. Let's see there's a plastic peg there which pokes through the slot, and you can see it lined up with that screw hole. Bring it back, it's locked in place, then we can do up the screws. So that screw's fallen over, there we go. Make sure it's going into the same thread it came out of. You don't want to be cutting new threads. That's going to cause big problems because the thread will get reamed out and then it won't hold anymore. Plug in that cable very carefully to not bend it, break it off. Put wires back into the various tie down thingies. Okay, that's clipped in place. That sits down perfectly, doesn't it? It all lines up. Not quite. Oh, that cable went somewhere. There we go. It's just resting between that bracket thing. Front panel board goes down. Bunch of screws. Red screws on the front. Just these shorter ones. Organizer screws 3. These 3 with a wider head for holding the front on. These 3 red ones for holding this board down. Black ones go in the back. And then these yellowy coloured ones for the bottom. 3 places with kind of spotty star things indicating them. Okay, we'll clip the front panel back on. Again, making sure you're not cutting new threads, especially when it goes into plastic. So we've got a good working machine. I say good working, but we haven't tested the sound, we haven't tested whether it records, but the important bit, which is video playback, is working, so we'll roll with that. Okay, let's juice it up again, and we'll just make sure it still works before we finish off. Wonderful. Alright, we'll put the little cover back here. Make sure it's clipped in properly. That's us. Hope you enjoyed a fairly brief look at the Panasonic NV-G30 VCR. Inside and out, and works. See you next time for another one. G40 coming next. Almost the last one that I've got in this G series.